Good afternoon, everyone, and happy holidays. Thank you so much for investing your time with us this Friday afternoon. My name is Maria Fuertes, and I am the director of the Practice Heroes program at CareStack. We're happy for you all to take part in our 5th series of Dinner with the Practice Heroes, although it's almost like I would probably say happy hour at this time, right? Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard. So our goal today is that you will come away with an understanding, knowledge, and pearls of wisdom, if you will, that you can apply to be more successful in your practice. I would like to welcome our panelists today. We have Crystal Beal, Tyler Phillips, Ashley Brownfield, and Nicole McVicker. They each bring years of knowledge, experience, and are subject matter experts in the dental industry. So I'd like everybody to take the time and introduce yourselves.
I'll kick it off first.
Right.
I'm Tyler Phillips. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm a practice manager and also a part of the CareStack Practice Heroes team. And I'm so honored to be here with all of these ladies today to talk about a awesome new year. And then Ashley.
Yeah, I'm Ashley Brownfield. I'm a clinical dental hygienist near Columbus, Ohio, and I'm also one of the CareStack Practice Hero team members.
And Crystal's having some technical difficulties with her audio. So Crystal Bill is in California, and she's a part of our Practice Heroes team. And then we'll go to Nicole McVicker.
My name is Nicole McVicker, and I manage the client success coaching team here at CareStack. I actually started in the dental industry when I was just in 10th grade, and I fell in love with the dental industry because a dental assistant. I live here in Orlando, Florida, where our headquarters are. So I've had a lot of experience inside the practice and bringing that knowledge forth into the software. And we're really looking forward to setting you up with success for 2022.
Awesome.
Okay, looks like Crystal still is having technical difficulties there. Okay, there you go. You're connecting to your audio, Crystal.
You're on mute, Crystal.
Yeah. All right, maybe you want to come back in. Yep, you want to come back in. So, all right, so let's just start this. So thank you, everyone. So before we dive in, all right, Crystal, go for it. Oh, no, not sure. It was going great, and I'm not sure what happened. You might want to call in, and let's see if you can do it via cell phone, okay? All right. So before we dive in, I want to remind everyone that you will receive a $25 Grubhub for attending today's webinar. So stay with us until the end to get your code. And also, if you have any questions or have any ideas on what you want to see us talk about for the next coming year, please email us at practiceheroes@carestack.com. Okay, so let's dive right in. So tonight's topics, we're going to talk about how your dental software is really your business intel. Everyone has a practice management system, an EMR, but did you know that it also acts as your business intel? We're also going to show you different ways on how to fill your chairs and how to prepare your team and your patients for the incoming new year. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that, new year. Right?
I know.
We all survived 2021, and I'm sure we're all looking forward for 2022. So yeah, you're going to prepare your team and your patients for the incoming new year with their new insurance benefits. So let's talk about, first and foremost, setting your goals for 2022. Do you as a team or practice organization forecast and plan for the incoming year? Well, if you've never had or haven't had time to do so, it's time that you start. So what we decided to show you today was top 3 metrics, if you will, goals that you should set out each year, every year. And they're the production goal, collection goal, and new patient goal. And I know that a lot of our members here, our speakers today, have actually participated in those types of exercises.
That's right, Maria. Even here in our own success coaching programs, these are the main topics that we carry on. So even whatever software you have, whether that's with a report or analytics dashboard, these are the most important KPIs that you can use to really set the bar for what goals you want to reach for the next year.
and all three of these goals work together. As you're setting these goals, it's very important to keep in mind all three of them to be able to reach, your new patient goal. It's going to help you reach production goals, collection, things like that. So it's very important to take it all into consideration. But these three are key for every single practice.
You can even look at this, just drill that down into specific providers, specific procedures, specific departments. Depending on where you're at and the dynamic of your practice, those are some of the different areas that you will definitely want to look into.
Most definitely. I would have to, want to add to this. For those of us that do the exercise of goal setting, right? This should already take place in Q3 or Q4, if you will. And if you haven't, like I said, again, started this year. However, though, let's say $1 million is your goal for 2022. You want to divide that into 12 months, right? But don't take that goal or that one annual goal, if you will, and spread it out like peanut butter. Think about it that way, right? You got 12 months, and perhaps there are months that are slower than others. There are months that are busier than others. So when you're goal setting, make sure you strategize. You're very strategic about this. I mean, what do you all think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even to think about just, this month in general, got the holidays, maybe summers are a really great time for you. So you really want to consider, not dividing that up evenly, just making sure that everyone, you have those ideas of what your highest producing months are.
Yes.
Correct. And then also with respect to your dental software being your business intel, I know that a lot of us don't use the reporting and analytics within the software. And that's how, before you make a business decision and whether you add a column or extend hours or take away hours or take away days. I mean, can we all agree that definitely take a look at the metrics, see what the data that you have before you make a decision?
So important to look into the different reporting and know where you stand and where things are within your practice before making any major decisions. I think we can all agree upon that.
Right. So I think that it's a good time for everybody that are attending, take a picture of this. So examples of reporting is scheduled versus actual production, utilization, appointments by provider, new patient. And with respect to the analytics, setting up your dashboards, always good to do at the first of the year or perhaps before even the beginning of the year, right? Your insurance collection rates, they're transactional. You want to take over on this one, Nicole, because I know that you're pretty passionate about this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I was saying before, depending on what kind of program that you guys are using for your analytics or your intel, in CareStack here, we do give you that capability to set up your dashboards, which will even compare your last year. So setting up those insurance collection rates, which is your collection and your production for each individual, what you're able to bring in from the patient and the insurance, and running that by transaction so that you can make sure that you're collectively meeting those goals. Because remember, again, it's not about just spreading it like peanut butter. You don't want to you don't have the same goals for each individual month. So you want to make sure that you are following that through and through so that when you're getting closer to those at the end of the month, that you're able to bring in those patients for those chairs. And of course, your over-the-counter rate, making sure that you're collecting at the time of service so that you don't have to send as many statements out and you just end up relying on your insurance to bring you home.
Yeah, and I feel like that's with the right practice management software, all of these things, the benefits that I've seen from people actually utilizing the analytics and the reporting and watching their aging, their accounts receivable be so low because they're actually utilizing every single section and taking these reports and putting them to use is so key. So
absolutely.
All right. So Ashley, I know that this is in your wheelhouse.
Yeah. So obviously new patients are the life of your practice, and every office needs to get new patients each year to maintain for those patients that have left the practice, have died, moved. So the annual retention, we want to increase our new patients by around 15%. So if you take your active new patient or active patients that you have in your practice, which is every patient that's been in for the last 18 months or so, if you take that amount of patients and you times that by 0.15 or 15%, that'll give you a total of patients that you need to collectively be seen as new patients for the year. And then of course you can divide that by 12 to get a monthly rate on which it would be good to maintain those patients. So if you're looking at around 1,800 active patients in your database, you're looking at around 23 new patients a month to maintain for those patients that you've lost throughout the year.
Absolutely.
Gosh, thanks for sharing that formula.
Yeah, it's a great tip.
Definitely. And if you see in the top right corner here, you can actually see one of the KPIs from the dashboard that we have built out. So you can keep tracking this. You'll see that the date range there is the last 1 month. So you can see that in this month, or for the last 30 days, there's been 172 new patients. And we have the tracker that does let you know that in this case, this is down 9.95% from that previous period. So this is another way you can just check with your goals to make sure that you're making that guideline that you've set for yourself.
Right. And I love that KPI too about the retention rate, the walkout retention. You know, you can have all the new patients coming in, but if you're not retaining them, what good's it doing, of course, you know? So, all right.
You're right.
And then we move on to the walkout retention. So making sure that your patients are scheduling at the time that they're being seen. So their next appointment is always on the book for the next 6 months or 3 months or restorative, whatever is being needed. So the goal would be to at least have 85% of your patients, if not more, scheduling out for their next appointment. That's going to be huge. So verbiage is big in offices. Instead of having, for instance, your hygienist ask if the patient wants to schedule out their next appointment, making sure that the verbiage is being used in the office is let's schedule out your next 3 months or your next 6 months, or we'll have the girls schedule your next restorative appointment. Just making sure that every patient that walks in the office is leaving with a follow-up appointment.
Yeah. And that's something we do within our practice. I've trained the staff, you know, when you're offering up a restorative appointment, rather than saying, when would you like to come in for your crown? I might say, my next crown appointment is Monday at 3 o'clock. Are you available? You know, and do it that way. So you're getting them scheduled, and it's so important to schedule them while they're in the office. You don't want to let them walk out without scheduling that appointment.
Right.
Absolutely. And you definitely want to show urgency to it too, Tyler.
Correct. Have you guys ever gotten somebody, like a patient, to give you pushback and say, I don't have time to schedule right now. I don't know what's going on in the next 6 months or 3 months.
It does happen. And I tell everyone, hey, let's at least put something on there as a reminder. You know, we send out our initial reminders about appointments 10 days out. So they've got 10 days to realize, hey, I've got an appointment coming up, and they can call and make adjustments as needed. But I always tell everybody, let's get something on the books.
Right. And I know, Crystal, in your practice, you've always, there's a type of verbiage you say, like, you know, and I can't talk for you, but something about that, you know, that life is busy, right? But.
Right. It's basically just, even if you don't know what you're going to be doing 6 months in advance, at least just put something on the books, because the schedules do fill up quickly. And this is a reminder for you as well to change the appointment if needed, and gives you enough time. At least you have an appointment on the books. So it's a great reminder and a great way to just fill up those schedules in advance, at least, even if patients are moving them around.
Yeah, agreed. All right.
So
Nicole?
this is the report, the utilization report. We don't want to scare
Absolutely.
anybody.
Yeah,
So
the
tell me what this is.
utilization. Yeah, the utilization report is a really great way to just keep tracking the number of codes, or, you know, you can drill this report down. You'll keep seeing this report. We will be talking about this a couple of times. So the utilization, you can drill that down by location, provider, primary insurance carrier, even to the code level, which you can see here. So this really breaks it down by code number and the number of patients with that. So you can kind of compare this to that walkout retention too, because like everyone said, we all know that hygiene drives your books, right? So we want to make sure that we're getting those hygiene numbers up. And you can even drill this down by provider, like I said, so you can see who's your best performers, or who's capable of bringing in more of that production in the future.
This is a great report.
Absolutely. And another big topic on this report is determining that contractual adjustment there too. So what you're taking a hit on from being contracted with the insurances compared to your UCR values. And Tyler,
Yeah.
I'm sure you can really dive into that too from the practice standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, this report has helped us in so many ways. Yeah, because you need to know exactly what your contractual obligations are, and really to be able to dial down by provider and code. So not really exactly related to the KPI, but I've had to use this report. We had a doctor that was in an accident, and even for their insurance, they needed to see this to be able to see how much that doctor was producing for loss of income and stuff. This report does so much, but you can also see, how many crowns each provider's doing, what their gross production is versus net. It's just a really useful report.
Right. So everybody should take a look at their software as well and ensure the fact that you have this type of report that can be generated. But one of the things that we talk about with respect to contractual adjustments, I've had a lot of people talk to me about, like, well, Maria, there's this one insurance company or plan, if you will, that it's like 38 cents to the dollar, right? 38%. And so, and you know what, this one practice, they took a lot of this one plan because it was a huge employer group. So what we talked about was discussing with respect to creating a membership plan. Let's go ahead and start that membership plan. Let's go ahead and ramp up the memberships and patient base that can definitely, help drive the business, if you will, before you start taking out, or let's say getting rid of a plan, if you will. I mean, what I'm trying to say is this: run the reports, take a look at it, and make that informed decision, right? Before you decide to terminate a plan or add another plan. Do you have the capacity and do you have the demand?
Yeah, that's great, Maria.
Right.
Yeah.
This really highlights that point too, Maria, here with this same report, but instead of breaking it down by specific code, we have this one just kind of highlighted by different insurance carriers here. So you can see there with None or Aetna, you can really compare where most of your patients are, what insurance they actually have, which ones maybe you want to keep, or which ones you might want to move to that membership plan, like Maria was saying.
Yeah. And, right now it's crazy if people in network with insurances, we're seeing a lot of insurance come back and try to decrease fees and such. So this is a report to dive into and say, is it worth my time to keep this as a in-network contractual insurance company or move on,
So I've got a question. We've got a question from Kevin Oscar. What if you retain a patient for a whole year? Do you mean retaining a patient for the whole year, or how do you retain a patient for a whole year? Is that what you mean, Kevin? Okay, we'll get back to you, Kevin. Anybody have any answers to that?
Retention, I mean, there's so many factors to that. It's going to be about the experience from the time that they make that phone call and become a patient to the time they walk out that door. That's all about the patient experience and the care provided. So
right.
If that's
and we're going to talk about retention reactivation campaigns too as well. So all right. All right. So how do the way to fill your apps, right? Chris, I'm so glad you've got the sound going on. Awesome.
So you always want to make sure that you have enough working days and accessibility for your patients. You don't want to turn any patients away. If you do turn them away, they're going to go somewhere else. And if they have a great experience somewhere else, they're going to refer family and friends. So you want to make sure to never refer or turn anyone away. And then we also want to make sure that we are providing the best patient care for these patients. So one of the things that I'm passionate about is same-day treatment. So if you're explaining it correctly and they see the value in needing that treatment done, and we get them started that day, that's going to help boost production and get them started that day. It's really important. And with new patients, you always want to make sure you get them scheduled within 7 days. So when a new patient calls, you don't want to push them 2 weeks out. If you do, they are probably going to end up going somewhere else. So it's really important to get them scheduled within the first 7 days of them calling.
So important. I see that so much. So I think that's where you utilize, block scheduling template, and you put in those new patient appointments that you can hold just for the new patient. So.
Absolutely. And on that same note too, with that same day production, that is a really big deal, Crystal, like you said, and you can use the scheduled versus actual report like we touched on earlier to make sure that you are, actually converting what you schedule. If you're over that 100%, then you're actually producing more than you had in your schedule. So that really keeps you on track.
Right.
Reactivation campaigns are really big for offices. If you haven't seen a patient in the last 18 months, it's good to do your, chart audits of some type, whether it be pulling a report or actually a physical chart audit. Hopefully your system allows you to pull a report, just to dive into how many patients haven't been seen in your office. So sending out text campaigns, email campaigns, even getting on the phone and calling these patients directly, obviously showing urgency, again, with verbiage, making sure that your front desk knows to put emphasis on Dr. Smith wanted to know why he hasn't seen you, or he wanted me to check in on you, showing that there is obviously compassion between the front and the patient, or the doctor wants to know where, if you've been seen at another location. Campaigns are great as far as incentives as well. So bringing those patients back with maybe Whitening for Life campaigns or free spin brushes, just to get them physically in the door, coming back to being seen, because it's always cheaper to retain those patients than to go out and get new patients.
Yeah.
Correct, especially if they have many openings in the schedule, right? And do you guys all agree that we shouldn't just do it at the beginning of the year, but run this exercise at each quarter, if you will?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Give them that personal touch.
Yep.
Right.
And you never know when that's the right time for that person. The beginning of the year, they may be overwhelmed, and you send it, at the end of that first quarter, and they're ready to come in.
So let's talk about the codes that we have here. What should we be running with respect to the campaigns?
So
Deb,
this is,
go ahead, Nicole.
I was just going to say, this is just one of the, your software may have something similar to this. In CareStack here, we do have our patient list that allow you to generate and save a specific filter criteria that you can keep running. So you can see here in these segmentation options in this slide, you always want to choose, your active patients that you've been continuously seeing, and you can set these specific date ranges. So on the next line, you can see the procedures patients with, and then that select, you can choose, you can use any codes, or if you want to maybe just double check and see those last patients that had prophies or exams. And then you can choose appointments within that last 12 months, 18 months, 36 months, whatever works best for your practice, but you do have that capability to configure your own settings here. So this is really great to really just kind of dial in. And from this list, you can actually send out a blast text campaign and really, try to target them and bring them back into the practice.
So I do this, we actually do this pretty regularly. If we have cancellations within the practice for hygiene, we've already got our patient list set up. If you've not been in the last 6 months and you don't have any upcoming appointments, and it's attached to a 1110 or a 4910, we run that report. So, the team actually, they had it's that time of year, they had 5 cancellations on hygiene because everybody was sick that day. So they actually did that patient list, sent out a mass text message that morning, and filled the entire schedule for the day. So, it's even not just the quarters. Like, if it comes down to it and you've got a bunch of cancellations and you need to fill your schedule for the day, utilize that patient list. It's very effective.
Correct.
Love to hear that, Tyler.
Yeah, I love that feature.
And just to kind of cap on what we just discussed, the next piece of that here, you can actually choose from the different settings. You can include in that patient list, if you just want to export it and kind of save it for your own records, you can choose what their default hygienist, their default dentist location. You can include their phone number, their demographics. You can use this to even determine who is opted in to receive different text message campaigns or email notifications, even patient portal statuses. So it's a really great way to just kind of keep record of those. And like I said, you can generate and keep this filter criteria, so you can keep running that. You don't have to set a new segmentation every single time you want to dial into those specific patients.
And one more thing, as we reactivate those patients, if the patient hasn't been in the last few years, you can always use that comprehensive code, the 0150, as those patients start returning, especially if there's been a significant health change in the last couple of years. But if they haven't been seen in your practice for 36 months, you can use that 0150 to help with insurance filing.
Definitely.
Thanks for that important tip, Ashley.
Yeah.
So before we start this next slide, I just want to let everybody know that we're talking about, many ways on how to fill your schedules, getting butts in the chair, if you will, or filling your operatories. But you got to make sure that you're always looking ahead, looking forward, that you do have those openings. Look into your schedules to make sure that, am I filling 2 hours worth of production, which shouldn't even be there? And like we said, again, it's really important to make sure that we give room to also your new patients. Right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Schedules at least 2 weeks in advance. Constantly looking at them, constantly reviewing them with the front and the back office. That's really important.
And it's really important that your software has some kind of mechanism to really dive into those specific patients. So from here, you can see at the bottom, we have our recalls. That's a working list that we actually provide that you can go in and find those unscheduled or filter them by overdue. So you can have someone in your front desk just easily go off of this list. You'll see that it includes their mobile number. You can make those calls. You can set up the list that we discussed earlier, like Tyler was saying, has been really helpful for them. So, just really important that you are utilizing what your software does have for you so that you can really dive into those specific patients. And the short call list, I know, Ashley, that's something that you guys really utilize a lot in your practice, right?
Absolutely, especially this time of year when you have patients that want to get in before the end of the year, but they need a Monday or Tuesday after 5. So putting those patients on a short call list or an ASAP list, and then when those appointments become available, being able to pull from that list in order to place patients and fill that schedule automatically.
All right. Thank you. The doctor's going to say, but what about me? Right? What about me? Go for it, Crystal.
Maria, it looks like we have another question in the chat from Tony. It says, can a patient check his or her history of the times he has visited for checkups?
If they have the patient portal, they can see their treatment history for sure. I'm sure a lot of other softwares have some capability like that, but that is definitely one plus of having your patients having access to their patient portal within CareStack.
Yeah, agreed.
Thank you.
All right. So how about our unscheduled reports to fill up our restorative chairs? This is another good report as well, that you can actually sort by provider, sort by procedures, if you will. So if people are templating schedules and you need to place crowns there, then you could definitely sort by code. Correct, Nicole?
Absolutely. Yep. You can filter this even by date. So this is something great to even just run at the end of every day, just to see what you've got proposed. You can keep a record of that and keep running that back, but this will keep work as a working list. You can just keep tracking that. And I know Tyler and Crystal, you guys both probably have a lot of experience utilizing this kind of list.
Yeah. And this time of year, especially right at the end of the year before benefits expire, it's nice to be able to go in here and see what's unscheduled, and then you can look and see if they have any insurance benefit remaining, if it makes sense to get in before the end of the year, and fill those holes in the schedule.
Yeah, it's a great reminder. They don't always know, some patients, they think that they can roll it over or something like that. So it's a great reminder for them as well.
Yeah.
And Crystal, you kind of use this type of list, if you will, to check to see the crowns that need to be delivered before the end of the year. I know that we need to talk about prepping for next year, but that's an exercise you do all the time, correct?
Yes, you always want to make sure any crowns that have been done, we want to get them delivered before the end of the year because a lot of insurance pay on seat date, not prep date. So if we don't get that crown seated by the end of the year, then it's going to roll into their benefits for the next year.
Very
Important point,
great point.
right? All right, same day treatment.
All right, so same day treatment, again, it's very, very important. You want to make sure everybody from the front office to the back office is on the same page. So you want everybody to be using the same verbiage. We can start this treatment for you today, Mrs. Jones, and from the front to the back. And then patient care is also very important, Maria. If you want to make sure the patient is understanding what needs to be done. If they put this treatment off any longer, it could become into something worse. They might need, instead of just a crown, it might need a crown and a root canal. Or if they wait long enough, they could eventually end up losing that tooth, which is going to cost them more money in the long run, and it's not beneficial for them in any way. So we want to just make sure that we're being proactive. And in your daily huddles, if you have openings, discuss with the front office and the back office that we can start treatment at this time today if patient needs it because our schedule allows it. We want to make sure we have a strategy in place.
That's a great point, Crystal. So I know the team that I have, they're trained to go through, and if there's holes in the schedule, they'll go through and look and see if anybody on the hygiene schedule has unscheduled treatment already. And they'll say, hey, the hygienist will say, hey, if they can stay and do that after, I'm going to try to get them to stay. It's so important to talk about that as a team. And that same day treatment is so valuable. I've seen also that setting goals for production per day for your team. And if you're not there, they may try to sell that same day treatment to reach that production goal for the day. So it's very effective in that way.
Right.
Thank you. I love this. Inform before you perform.
So important. I've seen so many times that people don't stop, and sometimes dentists get excited about getting the treatment done, and they'll start before we get the chance to go over a treatment plan. But it's so important to go over that treatment plan with that patient, make sure they understand financial obligations and what they're going to be having done for the day, and then move forward. And we have some great resources here, with Care Credit, Sunbit, and Lending Club. Yes, there's a fee. A lot of times, though, would you rather pay a little fee or get that treatment done for that patient? So I work with Care Credit normally. My office is signing up with Sunbit as well because we see a lot of value in that. So
Great point.
all right, Ashley.
Yeah, so hygiene obviously being the base of a majority of your practice. That's where you're going to pull all your treatment from. That's where the rapport starts, that 40 minutes or 45 minutes in with the hygiene department. So we want to look to see, as far as your hygiene is concerned, how many active patients you have in your database to determine what your hygienist schedule or how many hygienists you should have for the year. So if you use this formula, which is a number of patients that you have active, you can look at that and you can divide using this formula that we've talked about, the number of patients per day times the number of business days per month, gives you the amount of patients that you've seen per month. And then you can take those patients and look at that at a 6-month scale. That gives you the amount of hygiene patients that you need to keep in order to keep the hygiene schedule full. So for example, if we're looking at 8 patients per day, 16 working days per month, we're looking at 128 patients are needed for the month. And then we times that number by the 6, gives us 768 active hygiene patients. So if we're pulling that active list and we have more hygiene patients than what we need, we need to look at adding another hygienist if possible.
And then conversely, you can have that great problem, right, about having much of a patient demand, which I'm going to talk about in the next slide. Super hygiene days.
Yeah, so if we have too many patients, which isn't necessarily a bad thing by any means, obviously harder now to get those hygienists since COVID's started or has been in our life for a while now. but we can continue on with super hygiene days, looking at the schedule and determining what vacation days out of school. If there's a holiday coming up, we can maybe add a hygienist to that day to be see the extra hygiene patients that day, maybe school age kids. We can look at assisted hygiene, doubling that hygiene schedule, or even your coronal polishers may be able to help in order to get those patients in, and having maybe even an extra doctor come in to do hygiene exams on that specific day.
Yeah.
So Crystal,
That's
I know
great.
that you utilize this in your offices that you've worked in. And how do the hygienists then work through it? Do they have an assistant that helps them out? How does that all play out?
Yeah, usually they'll be assigned an assistant that will stay with them throughout the day to help them turn rooms, start the patients, get them seated. And it's a great way, even if, if they're on the hygiene schedule and need an exam, it not only benefits the hygienist, but the doctor as well. So it helps the practice all around. It's a great thing.
Absolutely. And just to kind of recap everything, here's that utilization summary again. You can filter those down by those specific providers, those specific hygienists, see how each one of them is performing, and just comparing that gross production is really helpful just to make sure that you're staying in line with your goals.
A great point.
This is my wheelhouse, but everybody else can. You know that I'm on this all the time, right? So patients that are coming in, if you're prepping like you're supposed to ahead of time, right? But I know we're really shorthanded, but it would behoove you to look at the schedule ahead of time, see the patients that are coming in, and then also how many of those patients coming in have family members that haven't scheduled their recall, they're overdue with their recall or peri-maintenance, or even yet they've got restorative treatment that needs to be done. Right? So this is where your unscheduled treatment, overdue, and unscheduled recall list and reports come in very handy, and they're very important. So talk about this one right here, Nicole.
Yeah, just like you said, it's super important. And you have that little memo pad here. So hopefully there's some mechanism that you guys all have to kind of to add any specific notes. So you can track this, as providers, as hygienists, as front desk, you can add those memos in there to see who have you touched base with and who have you not. So you can even set your date range, it'll kind of populate based on today's date, who's unscheduled or who's overdue. They're not going to show up on this list as overdue until they've passed that 6 month plus 1 day, right? So that's a really great place to start when you're using this kind of list. So that way you can make sure that you're touching base with those patients to try to get them back in as soon as possible.
Hey, we're here to help you fill your ops. So Ashley, go ahead and take it away, Nicole.
Even when we're looking, we know that 80% of the population has some form of perio. So if we're looking at those numbers that Nicole was touching base on, as far as the procedure count, we want to make sure that our perio numbers are in line, using the 30-30-30 and 10%. Method to look at those perio numbers. And we all know that perio, like I said, is active, and we want to stay on track by getting those patients scheduled back for their 3 or their 4 month recall appointments, making sure they're in the schedule more regularly. Also looking at those numbers as far as perio is concerned. Like I said, we want to make sure that the code utilization is active and we're using the right codes to bring those patients back.
That's absolutely right. And like you said before too, Ashley, that perio can be somewhat of a, you want to make sure you're touching base with them, because that's also a liability in a sense of,
Exactly.
you want to make sure that you are treating that patient with the utmost care, because, we don't want to see them decline any further. We want to make sure we're contributing to their health. So this is another way to use those patient lists. You can see in the segmentation options, you have that ability to choose by specific recalls with specific recall codes, and you can dial into those main hygiene codes, or you can just select that 4910 specifically and just track those patients individually, however you guys really run your practice and your workflow to make sure that each individual group is getting a contact.
And I think it's important for your entire team to know that that bacteria repopulates itself in 90 days. So that's why it's so important for those patients to come back every 3 to 4 months. And if everybody's on the same page, obviously education of that patient is going to be top priority.
Right.
Thanks for the compliment, Anne. All right.
All
Let's see
right,
comments in
so
the chat.
insurance unit. So with the new year coming, we know that benefits change, insurance plans change. So we want to make sure that we're gathering that information from the patients when they're coming in. A lot of times, patients' employers will change their benefits or change their plans, and they're not even aware. So you just always want to send a reminder. You can even send out a campaign to inform your patients that the new year is coming and to bring in any new insurance changes, new insurance cards, or anything like that. Do you guys do something like that in your office, Tyler?
Yes, we do. We definitely want to have everyone prepared. We ask, you may get an influx if you send out a campaign that says, hey, we need your new insurance cards, but it's better to be prepared and have that in and ready so that you're not scrambling. If you've got this in ahead of time, you're able to go ahead and have your full insurance verifications done prior to patient's appointments, and your team is ready to present treatment based on that verification when they come in. So it's great.
Definitely.
Everybody should be checking their 2022 CDT codes.
The emails are going out right now.
Right, right. And I know that everybody loves that. What was that, Dr. Charles Blair?
Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Charles Blair's book is fantastic.
Right, Coding with Confidence.
Yeah.
So if you haven't gone out and purchased your 2022 CDT codes, definitely get that right away, because there are going to be some changes with some codes out there, and also deletions.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then reminder, not everybody has the same benefits too with the calendar year. Not everybody renews the first of the year. They're probably renewing with their fiscal year.
Yeah,
Right.
and on that point too, Maria, you want to make sure with whatever software you're using, whether you have to do that manually or if there's a system update that you guys need to set. In CareStack, we do have that capability. If your plan reset date is January 1st, like you see here, those plans will automatically update for you, so you don't have to do anything. So you'll be ready to go as soon as 2022 hits.
I like that automatic renew.
Love that.
Here we go. Confirmation text. So Crystal and Tyler and Ashley, you guys have seen this go out each time. That's being proactive, correct?
Yeah.
Right. When you're sending out confirmation text, you can add in a line or just an item in there that just reminds them, please bring a copy of your insurance card and your driver's license, because we would like to update it in your chart. And then you can scan that information into their chart, so it's in there, so you can reference it for any claims or anything like that. And you also want to make sure that nothing has changed as far as their address or phone number as well.
Great
That's
point.
important as well. Yep.
Yes.
Oh, so this we stuck in here because it's important, right? Because it is part of your business intel. Hopefully our attendees have already done their due diligence and had negotiated for higher fees, or have done their market research with respect to, where do I stand with our UCR fees based upon everybody else within our zip code? How much is everybody else charging, right? So this is with respect to insurance fee analysis and negotiation. And actually, I know this is something that you've actually always have done.
Yeah.
Here, and I know everybody else has on this event. Go ahead, go for it.
So I love going to fairhealthconsumer.org. I don't get paid to market them, but you can go on there and you can type in your zip code and then the dental code, and it will bounce back with out of network and an average allowed amount for that specific code. And I think you can do a few each day and take a look at that, but you can base to see what other dentists in your area are getting for that specific code. And I think that's a great way to determine if you're under or over. Obviously, the quality of your work and what your lab fees are, but this is a great way to see what other offices are getting for those codes.
Yeah, we do it. Typically, we will buy one of those surveys for our area like every other year. We don't do it every single year, but that way we kind of know where we stand, and it's very valuable. So.
And I think the goal is to be at 80% you don't want to have too many people below you, and you don't want to have too many people above you, but 80% is kind of the going rate on that. You want to be at that 80% mark.
Yeah.
Right. All right. This is with respect to updating those UCR fees after you've done your market research and negotiate your insurances.
Yep. And so in our fee schedules that we have available, so in this case, if you have different contracted rates that are going to go up, or if you want to update your UCR fee, you can actually set a future fee. As you can see in the empty column to the right of the fees here, you can set an effective date. So maybe you want to do, maybe for your UCR, maybe you don't really want to update your UCR until maybe February 1st, but you can configure that in here already. So that way, you know what your plan is, and then the system will automatically update those fees that you have that fee schedule assignment for.
I've utilized this for negotiated fees with insurance companies. You know, you get a fee increase on a specific date. Why rush yourself trying to get those put in morning of? You know, you've got the luxury to be able to go ahead and put these in at that effective date. So yeah, it's a great feature within the system.
Yep, like you guys said, always being proactive, not reactive, right?
Right.
Exactly.
I think in other softwares, they would have to wait until like after everyone's off, they're off for the evening, correct? Off of the day,
Right.
and they would enter that in, but I don't think that they can set fees ahead of time, but here you can. Am I understanding that correctly, team?
Yes.
Yep.
Right. All right, so this is a quick way on how to actually update your fee schedule just by utilizing an Excel spreadsheet.
Yep, and just like we saw on that previous slide, you can actually export that list. And like Maria said, you can put that right into Excel, and then you can put in your different percentages. You can configure that and have the spreadsheet actually do that for you. And then you can import that new fee schedule right back into CareStack.
That's such a great feature. Making life easier for all of us.
Yes.
Taking back some hours, right?
Yes.
And then everybody hates this, but it's very important to do, is that insurance cleanup. I mean, we've all gone through it ourselves through the years, and I gotta tell you, but it's an important thing, because then you have all that other stuff, all that unvalid information or duplicates of information. So cleanup is very important. And I know that a few of you have something to add to this.
Oh yeah, definitely. Just the same thing, right? You want to, your insurance tune up, you take your car in for an oil change, you make sure it's all clean, and you'd make all those arrangements. So just like in CareStack, you find those, maybe things are getting a little muddied up. Maybe you've got some duplicates entered in there, or maybe, you have 5 carriers when you could just couple that into one. So it really helps just running your reports and getting things as accurate as possible. So we have a mechanism in here that allows you to actually merge those carriers. So you can select your destination carrier and bring the rest of that back, different, all those extra ones. Maybe you got some duplicates, you can just keep adding them. You see one here, but you can actually add multiple carriers to merge into that destination.
When I started with CareStack, this was one of my favorite features because it cleaned everything up on the insurance side. In my old system, if you had Delta Dental of North Carolina, you might have 20 Delta Dentals of North Carolina, whereas here you have the one and then the plan. So I love this feature.
Yeah.
Nicole, when you merge those, does all the data have to be the same, or can it be different phone numbers, or how does that work inside CareStack?
Yep, nope, you just choose that destination carrier, the naming convention, or any of those other details will just go right into that destination one. So you just want to make sure, of course, that the address and phone numbers that you're merging into are the, your parent, right? So,
Yeah.
But like, let's just say, even for instance, that one of the carriers that you wanted to be merged, let's just say it said Aetna, but it should be TDA. That does not matter. You can just select that destination and the system will do the rest for you.
Awesome.
All right, so best practices and takeaways. Don't forget, if you forecast and plan your goals for 2022, don't spread your goals like peanut butter. Make informed business decisions by utilizing reports and analytics. New patients, schedule them within 7 days. Assess your schedule capacity and patient demand. Reactivation campaign for active patients. That's a really important thing that you should do at the beginning of the year as well as each quarter, right? Especially if they haven't been seen for the last 15 to 18 months, Utilize your reporting to fill the schedules. There's always opportunity too for super hygiene days. Hygienists out there, I know that there's a whole bunch of super hygienists. Talk to your team member or talk to your managers and doctors about getting an assistant to help you. And then of course, same day treatment. So inform before you perform. So another thing, preparing your team and patients on what to expect with their insurance benefits for the new year. You should be talking about that already. I know everybody's in holiday mode, New Year mode, you name it, but talk about what's going to happen. Everybody knows that on January 3rd, when you open those doors, it's an influx of patients, phone calls, you name it. So be prepared, get your team prepared way ahead of time. Set the tone, set the foundation.